Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Oddwick.
This is Merps. And we got a lot to talk about. All right, first things first, no debating, you guys. This is going to be a BG-centric podcast.
100% BG.
Yes, 100% BGs. So if you're interested in Arena, I'm sorry that Blizzard didn't give Arena anything.
Blizzard didn't even freaking hit the button, okay? We're talking like, the Druid is, what, like 37% win rate? Below 37%? I didn't even check, it got too depressing. But yeah, nothing happened, so we're still waiting on that. So, no Arena talk this week.
36.9%. Nice.
Oh, God.
Not nice, but nice. So no Arena this week, maybe Arena next week, we don't know. It's kind of nice for Blizzard to just ignore this, haha. But we'll see if there's any news on the Arena front, probably not. However, BG's got the biggest update we have literally ever seen since BG's has come out. I know I've said this a couple of times because, you know, those were the biggest, and this is by far the biggest update. That came in the form of patch 21.2. So let's just dive right in. We're going to talk a little bit about the general stuff, overall changes. Adwicta is going to be Puppet Adwicta. He has not played much BGs.
I played one game.
He played one game. I went back and painfully saw your Akazamzarat game.
I got 7th.
To say that you were lost would have given you way too much credit.
This is a totally new game.
It's a totally new game.
Totally new game.
I have been watching a lot of streams. I played a lot myself. I'm not gonna say I'm like back on the grind. I'm not back on the leaderboards yet because that just takes way too many games right now. I think right now I'm like almost 7K, so I'm like, I don't know, 600 away from the leaderboards. But it'll take a while for me. But I feel confident enough, actually pretty confident, in being able to tell you what the meta is and what are the strategies in order to find wins and consistently high placements. So that's what we're going to do. All right, let's dive right in. Number one, Battlegrounds is out of beta now, and it has its own button. It's great. You're going to make the mistake, like a lot of people do, of clicking the modes button, but Battlegrounds has graduated. It has its own button right below the Hearthstone.
More importantly is that Constructed is now called Hearthstone.
It's weird.
Not Constructed, not Play. It is called Hearthstone, which means everything else we've been doing is not Hearthstone. So we just need to clarify that we are now officially no longer Hearthstone streamers. Nor is most of the other Hearthstone streamers.
Yeah. So now solo adventurers and Brawl are in the mode section with Arena. Arena really has like gotten just demoted over and over again. And you could see the ascent that Battlegrounds has kind of seen with their elevation. They have their own new button. There's been some general updates to BGs as well. So number one, there is a specific keyword added called Avenge. And what it means is if it's Avenge 2 or Avenge 3, that means it does something after X number of friendly minions die. So if it's Avenge 2, that means after 2 friendly minions die, something happens. Like this, whatever thing procs. Avenge can proc multiple times per battle. That's important to know. It's not just a one-time effect. It can proc multiple times, which is very important for some of these new units. They increase the length of turns 3 through 9 by 5 seconds. How do you feel about that?
I played and did not notice. It was very confusing. We need way more than 5 seconds. I mean, we really, it's not even about like adding more time, really. It's about like how Battlegrounds is fundamentally like the things you need to do in a turn, right? But it was fine. It was fine because I was out by 7th. And you don't really get to a lot of the, you know, super APM heavy turns when you're out by at 7th. Those are usually reserved for people who stay around to like, you know, top 4, top 5.
Also, I saw in your run, you needed much more than 5 seconds to read the new card.
There's so many new cards. And like, they all say different things. And they're not like very few words. There's a lot of words on these cards now.
Many words. Things are complicated. Okay. Additionally, Darkmoon prizes have been disabled. I think a lot of people are happy about this because it creates a very different game, much more high rolly. You know my feelings on the prizes overall. I thought they were interesting when they came out. I'm fine with them being disabled. Maybe we'll see them again in the future in another form. There was a BG rating reset, and the word is that internal ratings were basically brought back from, if you were a leaderboard player or above, everyone that was above 8K was brought to 8K, and then if it was lower than 8K, then that's where you kind of start.
Like, that sucks. I'm, like, not an 8K player anymore, but I have to compete against people who actually know how to play this game. Like, it's just, like, they could get more precise with this system in the future.
Well, I think you might actually be, like, because they based it on what you were last season.
Yeah, but last season I was 8K because they reset it to 8K the season before. They never reset you below 8K. So I'm always 8K.
But then this season, your internal is a reflection of your external.
No.
That's what I thought happened.
No. That's not what happened. Your internal is a reflection of your old internal. There's no way the people I was playing up against was like internal and previous season external, like 200 or whatever I was at last season. 0% chance. They were like able to do things.
I don't know if you ever start at 200. I think it would just be like 4K if that happened. I'm not saying that's what happened to you. I'm saying that if it were to happen, I don't think anyone starts at 0 anymore. I think it still is like 4K, because like I think even if you started off like at the very beginning, like brand new account, you still gain like the
okay, but still, the people I was playing against was not 4K people.
Who knows? Anyways. The most important change for gameplay purposes is that there is a damage cap of 15 that has been added until the first player dies. So the damage cap of 15 is present until the game checks at the start of the turn for a player death. So what this means is it doesn't matter if someone if like you would have died during the same time that someone else dies. The check is at the start of the turn. So if someone dies and you were about to take like 30 damage on the same turn during that battle, it doesn't matter. It's only on the next turn that the shields are off. The sort of protection is gone, and this 15 damage cap is really gone. So it's a big change. We'll talk about it because I from like tribe to tribe, I think it's most important to talk about this meta in terms of each tribe. So that's how I want to really ground the discussion. Overall, I don't love it. I'll talk about why I don't exactly love it in a little bit, but there you go. And then, of course, we have the perks, and if you get the perks, you get the new heroes. So here's how we're going to talk about today. Adwicta, you're going to introduce the new heroes, and then we're going to talk about the minions that are the new neutral minions, and then the minions that are leaving. I don't want to name them all, but I want to talk about the couple that are impactful. Yep. And then I want to go tribe by tribe, and then really talk about how has this tribe changed, what are the win conditions, and exactly how does this tribe kind of fit overall in the meta now? Okay,
sounds good.
Let's talk about the heroes. I'm going to just have you be the reader of today. Introduce the new heroes, please.
So the first hero is Master Win, spelled Nguyen. And he is a panda. And his power is, at the start of every turn, choose from 2 new hero powers. So discover from 2, and for that turn, that is your hero power.
Yeah. So as of right now, Master Wen is tier 1 hero. Master Wen is for the top 1% according to Aegis Replay, which is above 4K right now. It's hard, right? It's hard because there's a reset. It'll actually take another few days at least for things to even out. But tier 1 right now is clearly Cthulhu and Master Wen. And Cthulhu, when we get to dragons, we can address why Cthulhu is number 1 by a fairly large margin. But in terms of the non-cheese slash bugged heroes, Master Wen is number one. When it was first revealed, I was like, oh, this hero will be decent,
Would.
but overall, well, it's like decent, but like what I expected was okay, there's some hero powers which don't do anything. There's also some hero powers I'm like, would it even work with him if they programmed it in a certain way, right? It's like how would Cat work? Like the Mr. Bigglesworth hero power. So I was like, I don't know. But Blizzard made it such that you only get beneficial, in their definition, hero powers with Wen. And when you do that and you make all the good hero powers, quote, work with Master Wen, he's really good. He's really, really good. One of the things that I don't like, and this is
just keep in mind with this, there's a hero in which you get to pick one of 3 hero powers. This one is a little worse than you get to pick one of 2, but you get to change it every single turn.
Yeah.
So it's got to be way better. Like, you would obviously want to hit the refresh button every single turn and choose from 2, because then you're back to good after 2 turns, rather than just keep one for the entire game.
Well, so here's the thing about Master Wen. His selections are, we love this being an arena podcast, it's micro adjusted, as in not micro, macro adjusted. So if you play Master Wen 5 games, 10 games, and you're just like, gosh, I get Malagos's hero power, I get what else? Like Pyramad's hero power so often. Like I see him so often. Why don't I ever get Reno's hero power, Shutterwalk's hero power, George's hero power? It's because it's heavily adjusted. We don't know the exact stats right now. I'm hopeful that HS Replay with their tracking is able to give us the percentages very soon, but it is very obvious that it's quite rare, understandably so, right? Understandably so, for you to get Reno's hero power, Shutterwalk's hero power, etc. very rarely. But you know how much I hate these hidden percentages, this kind of stuff. And Master Wen is a perfect example of that, in which they can kind of stealth change it in order to buff or nerf him. That's the kind of thing I hate. I hate these things in which you have to go on HS Replay, you have to read the forums to figure out, oh, it's actually like a 0.7% chance to get Shutterwalk, and then when they nerf Master Wen, if they do, it's like, oh, they decrease George's hero power offering rate by 50%, actually increase Shutterwalk by a little bit because they like that, but then decrease like Jandis also by 25%. I don't like that. It's the way it is. It's a new hero. It's very good. It's very fun, very skill testing. So definitely play it. But that's my rant for what I don't like about Master Wen.
Agreed. Next hero is Kario Rome. This is hero power is a ranked hero power, much like the cards that go up in rank when you get to 5 mana and 10 mana. Here it upgrades at Tavern 3 and Tavern 5. And so it starts out being 1 mana, give a random friendly minion +1/+1. Then it goes to give 3 random friendly minions +1/+1. Then give 5 random friendly minions +1/+1.
It's bad. It's okay. Look, it's just some stats. If you think about where the meta is, how it has been trending, and especially now that there is a damage cap of 15, which we've talked about a damage cap, and we've talked about the negatives of a damage cap in that what it does is allows people to level safer. It allows them to take more risks because it is no longer a risk. I have seen some people go for it because they're at 18 health and they know that no matter what, I cannot die this turn and I can just pop off the next turn. So when that is the meta, when that was the meta, and that is more so the meta, a hero like Rome is too fair. It's just not good enough.
It's incremental. The advantage is incremental, but the power spike is a spike. And the problem with the health, the damage limit is how they structured it. And it was such a weird way to structure it that they had to have like thought it through, done internal testing, and just like totally missed. It's very disappointing how they structure the damage cap, because the damage cap is one of those easy, like, low-hanging fruit, not the best solution, but probably better than nothing kind of like solution. But then they changed it so that it's not just the damage cap, but it's a damage cap that stays consistent and goes away when one person dies. So you don't know when it's going away each game, but if everyone's in on it, then it stays forever and everyone can level up. So you've created this like weird new rule with the damage cap that has weird, presumably unintended because they're so bad, consequences. And on top of that, it doesn't scale the way it needs to. So it was just kind of, like, when I read the damage cap, I was like, oh, that's weird and will cause problems. If not now, then definitely later. Like, this is not a permanent solution. They're going to have to do something else, but we'll see how it works on a temporary basis. And it turns out it's causing problems in this meta.
Yeah, I have played a decent amount. I don't love it. It's not the end of the world. And once again, this is something I will probably repeat a few times. I don't want you guys thinking that, like, Blizzard released a terrible patch. I can't play this anymore. I played BGs a decent amount. It's been pretty enjoyable. For the amount of changes that they've made and with the risks that they took, I think they did a pretty good job, as in it's been pretty fun. A lot of the new units are overpowered, but in kind of like a fun, interesting way. There's been a lot of strategies that people have needed to figure out. So in terms of my own personal ratings, I'm like, this was a success with an asterisk, as in you cannot expect things to be perfect or anywhere close to perfect. So it's a success if you take that into account. If you were expecting things to be significantly better than they are right now, I don't know, that's just unrealistic.
I expected things to be worse.
Yeah, I expected things to be worse. And not crappy on Blizzard way. It's just like,
right. It's just a lot of changes. Like, how are they going to handle it all? But the problem isn't how it ended up. It's not the current state of things. The problem is that this damage cap concept, where it goes away after one person dies, is just such a poorly thought out concept. And it's so complicated that they clearly thought a lot about it. There's no way this was their first stab on the whiteboard of a solution to this. So they had thought about it, and then just were not smart enough to, or the smart people didn't have enough power to see push forward the faults in this that were kind of obvious if you are a balancer and you really think about the normal game theory, right? Like, not like game design theory. I mean, like literal game theory on how the players will play.
I don't want to say that, because I think the Battlegrounds devs and people who work on it have clearly showed that they are very smart.
Well, so what happened?
Ways. But I think what happens is the ultimate call comes down to simplicity.
It's not simple. That's the problem.
It is. It's simple to understand. I understand what you mean in terms of it's not simple.
Wouldn't it be simpler to understand to say that it goes away after 6 turns?
Way to understand it for someone entering the game,
rather than it goes away after 6 turns.
Simplest way, yes.
I totally disagree. I think putting a turn on it was the simplest way, and they went to a more complicated way, thinking it'll be more helpful, and is less helpful.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying that it ends up being the simplest way. I'm saying you can see how some people think it is the simplest way. I don't agree with it either, right?
I can't see how it literally creates a variable, whereas it could be a constant. So the variable is less simple than the constant. That's just, I don't know, I guess there's no definition of simplicity, but it's really hard to convince someone that a variable is less simple than a constant.
No, I mean, it's never really about, it's about what is perceived to be the most simple, right? It's like, for people who are coming back into the game, or for very casual people, how do they perceive it? It's like, will this be perceived by them who don't, they obviously don't think about the game like you. They don't think about it probably like our viewers or our listeners. But will it be perceived by them as the simplest solution? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a pulse on the overall community or how people think, but maybe. So
Like, let me put it this way. I don't think there will be more casual players who will understand 15 damage for the first 5 turns less than 15 damage until one person is removed from your queue. Remember, you're talking about casual players. They're barely looking. They're not scouting. They're barely looking at who's in the queue. They're just focused on their next fight. They don't even know who they're faced against in the next fight. Like, as far as the average Battlegrounds player is concerned, I'm way closer to them than you. And that's how they're thinking.
The way you think about the game is very different from literally anyone. Please do not say that you are connected to the average player. Your Papega plays are very much connected to the average player, but the way you process literally anything.
Well, so you're saying the average players are looking at their matchups or aware of how many people are remaining?
No. It's just when they figure this out, when they recognize that there is now a shield, how does it make them feel? You know? It's like, oh, okay, that's simple enough to understand. And it's like, oh,
yeah, I'm not arguing about the shield. I'm saying that the extra step isn't whether there's a shield or not. The extra step is when the shield goes away. That's what's the difference between a variable and a constant.
They're not thinking of that.
No. The developers should be thinking about that. The players should only care about whether there's a shield or not, and whether that light is on or not. Right? Like whether
I'm saying the developers have prioritized how will the player feel.
Right, and I'm saying the players won't feel differently between the two options, and one is simpler than the other. Because the players are not advanced enough to have any objections at turn 5 versus first player out. It doesn't feel safer first player out. It doesn't feel safer to be on turn 5. Like, which players are looking at it and be like, oh, first player out, now I feel safe. Versus, oh, I have 5 turns, now I don't feel safe. Like, who's doing that? That involves way too much. That's the complexity I'm talking about. We're making an argument over simplicity or complexity. And I'm just saying, Blizzard took a more complicated concept, and they had to take the more complicated concept by thinking through it a lot, and they thought wrong, and that's what's concerning.
Maybe. Look, we don't... At the end of the day, we don't know what was happening internally. This is one of those things where I hope they change it in some way.
I mean, they will eventually change it. There is no way this is the end form of this system. Like, 0% chance this is the end form. There's 0% chance they intended it as the end form.
One of the things that I've noticed in my games, and look, there's obviously skill. You are able to play around it, right? Like, you are not play around it. I mean, you are able to incorporate it and then use it to the best of your ability. Just like we've seen all these good players do. Like, I've been watching a lot of streams. The ones I watch the most are like Dog's channel, Slissa's channel. I watch some Victor's. I watch some Shady, like in the morning. It just depends on when I'm on, but those are the people I watch a lot. And yeah, there's obviously skill there, but I agree. This is not a change that I love. In my personal games, there's been times in which I think there was one I was at 28 HP, and then someone died, and then I took 32 from a Shutterwalk who was at 1 HP because they were a 16 previously, and they literally just held, the thing Shutterwalk does. Like, we talked about it last week, where they held, and I think the turn before, they had literally nothing on their board. Because on the scouting report, it was like, Murlocs 2. I was like, okay, I understand what's going on. It's just like the 2-token Murlocs, and the Shutterwalk had nothing else, just like hoarded all these things in hand. And the turn after, it was like 5 triples, 6 triples, I forget. I think it was like 6 triples. I just died. I just like exploded for 32 damage. So look, that is I don't love that, right? Because I was pretty strong that turn as well. I don't love what it enables. I'm hoping they change it. We can just move on from there. Anyways, they removed a ton of minions from Battlegrounds. I don't actually want to name them all, because when you name them all, you don't like get any sense of exactly what happened. I would just say this. There were no notable removals in terms of meta-defining and build-defining units. And I was so surprised. I would have bet a large amount of money that they were going to remove stuff like Khadgar, stuff like Parrot, stuff that was problematic in some ways and design limiting in others, but they didn't remove any of that.
That's not true. They removed Mal'Ganis.
No, they didn't.
I'm looking at the list that says remove minions.
Yeah,
and the
what I
word,
mean is he's now at tier 4.
Yeah. They replaced him with something that's similar to it.
did.
But just in case people are wondering, you literally said they didn't remove it, and I'm clarifying that they removed things. They did remove things, such as Mal'Ganis.
Effectively, no. Right? If you have something that
yes, you have something that functionally covers for what Mal'Ganis is doing.
Yes, the most important part of it, which is bust your other demons.
Right. But that's not what you said. And to someone listening to the podcast, that would be confusing because they would think that key pieces would not have been removed. They were replaced, is what you're saying. They were functionally replaced or not removed. I think it's a very key distinction.
We can draw that oh my god. Okay, we can draw that distinction where Mal'Ganis was, quote, removed. Oh my god. Alright.
What do you mean, quote? Literally removed. What do you mean, quote? You act like I have such a weird interpretation when I'm literally...
by name only. Mal'Ganis was basically buffed to be on tier 4. It really was. If anything, it was a buff on Mal'Ganis and they changed the name.
And the art.
That's it.
And how we would reference this card in the future.
It's if anything, it's we should be talking about how Mal'Ganis was buffed, and oh, by the way, his name was changed. Okay. The two that were really actually impacting the meta previously. Number one, Mithrax is gone, so that nice little stat stick for Menagerie is gone, and also Faceless Tavern Goer is gone. That's probably the most meta impacting unit. Triples are a little bit harder to get for certain units, especially higher tiered units. Now that Faceless Tavern Goer is gone, I'm happy that Faceless is gone. Faceless, I think, created some issues, so I'm glad that it has been removed. So that's the most important thing. There's been one nerf, I guess a pure nerf. Arm of the Empire. It used to have 5 health, now has 4 health. Woohoo! Big difference. Let's talk about the 2 neutral minions that were added, though. You want to read them off?
Yeah, the neutral minions that were added are the Avenge Minions that we briefly described earlier. And remember, Avenge triggers when X number of minions, of friendly minions die. So that you would avenge them by getting some kind of thing. So the first one is a tier 3 card. It's a 1/4 minion with Avenge 3. Give adjacent minions +2/+1 permanently. So it's a 6 stat buff each time the Avenge triggers, but the body itself is super weak and does not actually grow. And in tier 4, we have the other neutral one, which is a 3/5 minion. Again, really lackluster for tier 4. Again with Avenge 3, and that is add a random Battlecry minion to your hand. So that's more resource generation. The other one is more buff.
Let's talk about the tier 4 unit first, the Witchwing Nest Matron. It is useless. It actually is useless. People will sometimes take this because they completely whiff on everything else. When they triple into a 4, maybe you're the money works out and you try to end on this thing. But it is just one of the most useless new units that is out because Battlecry doesn't even guarantee anything useful for you. So it's really a shame because you look at this Nest Matron versus some of the other supremely overpowered generator cards that were introduced, and it's just not fair. Budding Green Thumb, though, okay, you will pick it up sometimes, and it will do some work for you. It will not be part of your final comp, but you put it next to a Deflecto and a Bronze Warden, you have some stuff die. It gives you a little bit of a boost for 2 turns in the mid game, let's say. So it's okay. I've picked it up sometimes and had it buff some things. I see other people pick it up as well. It's a serviceable unit, and as long as the unit has a purpose, whether in the early, mid, or late game, I think it's a fine addition. The Avenge can proc multiple times as well, so some people get 2 Avenge procs per battle, which means you're getting +4/+2 on Divine Shield units permanently. Not bad.
So how often would you keep it around if you take a Green Thumb?
I think on average I keep it for like 2 turns.
Okay.
Or like, okay, sorry. On average, it would be like 1.7. You know,
Okay.
because like sometimes it'll be 1, most of the time 2, but almost never more than 2. So
Okay.
it's like 1.7 if you want to be like technical. So yeah, it's totally fine, totally fair. I want to talk about the meta generally for a sec, and then we'll introduce all of the tribes, talk about the tribes. One of the things to really remember about this meta specifically, and I don't want too many general points because it depends on what the tribes are in, tribes that are out. 5-drops are pretty good in this meta, generally. 5-drops are very strong. 6-drops, it just depends on what tribes are in and what tribes are out. Mechs got a big boost. Dragons got a big boost. Demons and beasts also got a big boost. The other ones, you'll see, are in a little bit of trouble. And overall, a lot of the top players are utilizing this 15 damage shield and basically econing hard. And the way that they're doing it is by staying on tier 1 more often. People are either doing the in slang terms, they call it the Chinese curve, which is leveling from tier 1 to tier 3 on 7 gold. So they're able to level twice because it's so cheap. So what they're doing is collecting all of these cheap or like tier 1 units, preferably tokens, like Elemental and the actual tokens and the Murloc and the Beast, and then collecting all of these triples and then leveling up higher in order to cash in on 5-drops and 6-drops. So that's what you want to keep in mind. People are doing that more often, and if you are one of those people that is consistently leveling to tier 2 on turn 2, you're probably giving up some MMR by doing that. So it depends on your roles, it depends on what tribes are in, but you should be sprinkling in a healthy amount of staying on tier 1 in order to maximize your MMR. I'll just say that, first of all. Okay.
All right.
You want to go through the tribes? You can introduce them.
Let's go through the tribes. First tribe is Beasts. Beasts have lost nothing on tier 1, Pack Leader and Kindly Grandmother on tier 2, which no one except me will miss. On tier 3, they're losing Infested Wolf, which is about time. And on tier 4, I think that's it. Did they lose anything else? They lose Ironhide up on tier 5. So those are the beasts that are gone. And to replace them, they have added a tier 2 beast called Leapfrogger, 3/3. Death Rattle, give a friendly beast +2/+2, and this Death Rattle. Interesting card. Do you want me to go through all of them?
Yeah, go through all of them, because you can't talk about,
I don't know, the early ones you probably can, but sure, I'll go through all of them.
No, you can't. You cannot.
Alright, Sewer Rat, another tier 2 beast, 3/2, Death Rattle, summon a 2/3 turtle with taunt. Tier 3, Bird Buddy, 2/4, Avenge 1. That means each time something dies, give your beasts +1/+1. Each time something dies, a friendly thing dies, give all your beasts +1/+1. Then is tier 4, Reanimating Rattler, 6/2, Battlecry, give a friendly beast Reborn. And tier 5 beast is Pale Scale Crocolisk, which is a 4/5 beast, Avenge 2 and Death Rattle. Give another friendly beast +6/+6. So that's your replacement for Direhorn here.
Okay, so you have all of these units. They did not take away Parrot. They didn't take away Goldrin or Mama Bear. I like that we're talking about Beast first. Well, it's listed in this patch notes first, and it's very relevant because Beasts are so complete. They have so many duplicative units. They have the most ways to win in the game right now. You can win through traditional Mama Bear comps, Goldrun comps, but and these aren't even like outside of those. You have units that complement those and branch out on their own as well. You can do a pure Crocolisk build. You can do a stupid Leapfrogger build. This is why you're just like, oh, we could just talk about tier 2. Like, I'm gonna ask you right now, how good do you think Leapfrogger is?
It seems very good.
Yeah, it's like better than Goldrun good, by the way.
Oh, okay. I didn't think it was that good, but it seemed like totally busted to me, but not like as good as a tier 6 minion.
No, it's like arguably better than Goldrun. Like, imagine going to tier 6 when you can get a better unit on tier 2.
All right.
Yeah, so Leapfrogger build, super duper good. It actually...
So what's the build besides just Leapfroggers? Or is it just Leapfroggers?
Well, no, it's Leapfrogger. You got to get a Golden, which is it's a tier 2 unit, right? So it's pretty easy. It's not like Golden Goldrun. You get a Golden, and you still do want Parrots. You still want Baron, and then you sprinkle in... oh, by the way, reanimating Rattler. I don't understand why Blizzard decided to give the players the ability to give literally any beast reborn. So,
I see. Okay. Yeah.
What you're going to do is reborn the frog, the golden frog. You're going to reborn all of your parrots. You're going to reborn all of your random, like, ass beasts. Maybe throw in, like, one sewer rat in there and one rat pack, for example. And the Leapfrogger is... it's so troll, by the way, because of, like, the ribbit sound and the frog hopping animation. It's so troll. It's like the most troll way to kill someone. But this keeps on proccing, and then so you want this Leapfrogger like first, taunted golden Leapfrogger first. It goes in, it spreads death rattle to a lot of these minions, and then it gets reborn. It hits again, it spreads all of it to everyone else, and then the parrots start proccing the, I'll call it the quote new concentrated death rattle off of something, and then that'll ping pong back and forth. And then if the parrot has reborn, let's say it dies, it gets reborn, and then it ping pongs a death rattle of a unit that is now even more concentrated with this Leapfrogger death rattle, which is further amplified by your Baron. So at the end, even though you're just like, wait, this Leapfrogger only looks like, for golden form, +4/+4 to one unit instead of Goldrun, which is like, to everything. You are going to have bigger boards at the end than Goldrun. And one of the benefits here is not only do you have the size, you have the death rattles as well. Like I said, you throw in one rat pack in there, and then it just like keeps ping-ponging back and forth. So it eliminates one of the weaknesses of Goldrun as well. Now, obviously, Goldrun still has its strengths and whatnot, but these stupid Leapfrogger builds are able to just exponentially multiply this +4/+4 through Baron, whether normal Baron or Golden Baron. And then with the parrots proccing this like concentrated and even more concentrated death rattle that forms on these units. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And at the end of the battle, when I do these Frogger builds, I have like a 200-200 parrot and like a 200-200 Hydra as well. I'm like, I've never gotten anywhere near this big with Goldrun, and this stupid Golden Reborn 2-drop beast just outclasses Goldrun by this much. It's really dumb, but that is a huge part of the meta right now. People understand exactly how good it is. You guys remember those times when, like, we had, you see a Wrathweaver, you pick a Wrathweaver, you see this on tier 2, you pick it. If you see Frog, pick it on tier 2. It's so good. Let's talk about the other units for a second as well. Beast right now...
Okay, so Mike, before we get to the other one, Mike, or I don't know, maybe this is a question better handled later, but would you nerf Bird or Leapfrogger or Baron?
I think Parrot is problematic.
Okay.
We talked about it before. Parrot is very problematic in many ways, right? And I think Parrot restricts design in many ways. If you didn't have Parrot, because once again, the thing that makes Leapfrogger better than Goldrinn is that just think about how concentrated these death rattles get on these units.
Yep.
And that is why Parrot, when it procs the death rattle of this unit, it's like, oh, the Leapfrogger will build on this unit like 8 times, right? And then when the Parrot goes in, and Baron's like, okay, so I proc this 8 times 3 times 2 because it is a goal, and then boom, suddenly your board is so much bigger than what a Goldrinn comp can do, and it's just like.
But you know how they're gonna fix it, right? They're gonna nerf Parrot and make it trigger the first death rattle rather than all the death rattles, and they're gonna still keep Parrot in there. I can't believe Parrot survived. They've done everything possible to this freaking card to not remove it. They've changed everything else around. They moved this up from a tier 2 to a tier 4.
It's really
it's a terrible design.
Yeah, it's really, really powerful. And it's crazy because, like I said, Goldrinn comps were always a little bit weak in that they didn't have they didn't have the resiliency of multiple bodies, right? They were kind of like, they had maybe 1 or 2 cleaves from the Hydra to cover up for that fact, but they were built on pure size. It was almost like big elementals in a way, in that by the end, it's like, oh, we have these singular units. It wasn't like Mech, which tried to kill you through refreshes and tech and all of that stuff. But with Leapfrogger and the addition of, let's say, a reborn like sewer rat even, or just a rat pack, it covers up those weaknesses, and it allows it to sort of like ping pong back and forth, and also to have this huge death rattles. If the rat dies, by the way, which is in this comp, it's like if you're able to kill off the rat, it's like, oh man, you climbed up Everest, and here's another Everest to go. If you kill off the rat, the death rattles carry over to like the baby rats. It doesn't like die and then refresh. It carries over to the death rattle rats. So good luck with that. Yeah, it's really broken right now. It's unfair how good it is. And it's made worse by the fact that, introducing the other units, Beasts have a very stable mid game right now. So it wouldn't be as bad or as problematic if you had to kind of like take a chance on Leapfrogger, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is dangerous, but I can go for it. It's not dangerous. Something like Bird Buddy is so good at stabilizing that like 2, maybe 3 turns in the mid game. You pick up the Rat Pack, you got a Frog, and if you're able to pick up a Bird Buddy, that carries you. That carries you so hard. I've seen some people level up to tier 5 just like without a care in the world, with a simple, like, really econ friendly comp of 1 Khadgar, like a Acolyte of Cthulhu, and like 2 Rat Packs, right? Like they just have that, and they're like, okay, that's probably enough for me to just live for at least the next few turns, because that's so much stats. Just think about like 1 Acolyte of Cthulhu, 2 Rat Packs, and a Khadgar. Cool. Awesome. I'm just going to have like giant buff things, and then I'm going to power level after that. So that's what, like Bird Buddy.
And you don't have to power level that hard. This kind of ends on tier 5. And that's only 1 unit, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, you need 1 Baron, and everything else is tier 4 and below.
Yep. And reanimating Rattler, I think, is a huge problem. Like, giving any beast reborn, that's like if dragons had a unit on tier 4, just like, give a dragon divine shield, right? I don't know, we don't do this typically. We don't just give these amazingly powerful permanent buffs so cheaply. But you do for beasts, so I've talked about it a lot, and I haven't even talked about Croc. Like, it's nice, and you could win I've won the game with like a Croc build quite a few times, but it's just Leapfrogger that is ridiculously good, unfair, because it's a tier 2 unit. So if you've learned anything at all, it's like see Leapfrogger, take a Leapfrogger almost, and that'll definitely help you stabilize the mid game at the very least. And it is not just like a viable endgame comp; it is like the endgame comp right now.
All right. So that's Beast, our most important comp. Next, we're going to get to Demons, a not as important comp. So Demons lose a bunch of crap, and I do mean crap. Fiendish Servant, Vulgar Homunculus, they're gone. Who else is gone? Imp Gang Boss. Like these things, like they really skimmed a lot of the fat off of all these tribes. Crystal Weaver. What else is gone? Is Mal'Ganis after that?
They took away Mal'Ganis. They also took away that taunt demon.
The taunt demon. I don't know. Is it one of the new ones I'm just not recognizing the name of?
Sorry. They also took away a Hex Ruin Marauder.
Hex Ruin Marauder. Okay.
I think it was a demon, but like it's not part of like demon comp. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay. So
no, you don't even have to go because it's like.
Well, you got to tell them what leaves, right? You don't have to tell them all at once because it doesn't make any sense. But you got to do it when you're.
It's nothing important. But anyways, yes,
okay.
New unit time.
Okay, new units. They're replacing the tier 1 demons that they removed with Impulsive Trickster, 2/2 Death Rattle. Give this minion's maximum health to a friendly minion. And then Icky Imp, 1/1 Death Rattle. Summon 2 1/1 imps. A lot of imps. Then on tier 3, you have Impatient Doomsayer, 2/6 Avenge 3. Add a random demon to your hand. So that is a lot of in-tribe generation right there. And then you have Kathra-Natir, the new Mal'Ganis, at tier 4, which is a 7/5, and your other demons have +3 attack, and your hero is immune. Then you have tier 5, a new demon that is Insatiable Orzul, a 4/6 taunt. After you play a demon, consume a minion in Bob's Tavern to gain its stats.
You literally eat it. You suck the minion from the tavern. So one thing to remember for this unit and the next unit, if there is one thing that you want to buy it first.
Yeah. And the next unit, being tier 6, is Famished Fellbat. At the end of your turn, each friendly demon consumes a minion in Bob's Tavern to gain its stats. So that is a lot of stats at the end of every turn, or it should be a lot of stats if we were in this meta, but it's another story. So how is the shape of demons?
Very good. Very good. This was the change that demons needed. Let's go through some of the problems that demons had previously. Weak endgame, too reliant on Wrath Weavers, and just not enough like stats, like not enough scaling in the late game, and also not enough stat division. Like it was too focused on Wrath Weavers, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we solved quite a few of those problems, and they made Mal'Ganis a little bit earlier as well. So with the Insatiable Urzul and the Famished Fellbat, we get some of that late game scaling. Famished Fellbat is, provides that late game scaling and is also just one of the best things to hit for that immediate power spike in like the mid game as well. So that's good. Insatiable Urzul is the scaling unit, the secondary scaling unit that demons really needed, because now whenever you play demons, you are buffing your Wrathweaver and the Insatiable Urzul. So that's great. But we need to give it up to the true MVP of this patch for demons, Impatient Doomsayer. You can make an argument that this is the independently most strong card that was printed in this patch. We talked about Leapfrogger a lot, but at the end of the day, beasts have an abundance of riches, and Leapfrogger still needs support from quite a few cards.
Yep.
Impatient Doomsayer is stupid. Look how bad the neutral like tier 4 unit that gives you a battle cry after 3 things die. There's no guarantee that battle cry is decent, right? Like that it's useful for you. Impatient Doomsayer, in a class in which it's pretty easy to make tokens, whether through Icky Imp or through Imprisoner or through whatever means, right? Like the
it's your like shooty demons. Shooty demons have plenty of support, so it'll be the same support.
So if you have the Wrathweaver and some stuff, you are going to get more demons. Exactly the thing that you want to do. You want to play more demons, right? So the leveling scheme and sort of your goal to the end game, it is made so easy if you start off with Wrathweaver, have the Impatient Doomsayer, and you can just coast to the demons that really help you close out the game, which is like the Urzul. You can get the bat if you want it, but like Impatient Doomsayer makes the bat kind of useless. Like you don't need the bat. The bat's nice, and you can fit it in like some comps or whatever. But Impatient Doomsayer is a stupidly broken card that gives you way too much econ and specific scaling. Like a lot of times econ just gives you econ. We've seen stuff that gives you coins, and yeah, you can use it on whatever you want, but whatever. This gives you econ in that it gives you at least a coin, right, for Avenge 3, in a class in which it's easy to proc this, and then it gives you all the scaling and stats that's basically guaranteed for you, or you can just triple for stuff that you were going to buy anyways. So good. Ridiculously broken card. And if you are playing demons, or if you just have like a couple pieces here and there, you see Impatient Doomsayer on 3. It is the best econ card in the game right now, in the mid game, right? And you don't even have to be demons. Like, if you're not demons, think about it. If you're demons and you're not picking up this Doomsayer, I don't know what you're doing. Like, so yeah, I needed to talk about this the most because it is arguably, and I would say, in my opinion, just is the most independently powerful card in this patch.
And it seems like it, right? Like there's no, like when you look at it, it's generating random demons in class, and it's going to generate probably more than one of them per turn. That's an insane thing to have, especially on tier 3. It's just the rest of the generation doesn't keep pace with this at all.
Nope. Demons are in a pretty good spot. They still do suffer from one of the problems that they had before, which is when you get to the end game. Yeah. The end game, they are still reliant on the selfless heroes, and they are still underpowered
they don't
compared
keep up.
to a lot of stuff. They don't keep up very well, but they're so much better than before. Like they smack people in the mid game, and they can hold their own in the mid and late game. They can still win some lobbies as well, which was unheard of before. Like you never won with demons before. They can win some now. They just don't win it as often as other tribes, like Beast, for example. And that's fine. Like demons are in a great place because of what they added, and they have become one of the ultimate mid-game beatdown comps. Good job, Blizzard.
So if they fix the or just change or get rid of the damage cap, and then they nerf Beast to a balanced level, whatever that may be, do you think Impatient Doomsayer needs a nerf, or do you think that it's fine as the overpowered driver of the demon engine, right? That is otherwise doing kind of normally here in this meta.
I think already it's just a little bit too overpowered. Demons themselves aren't problematic, but Impatient Doomsayer just gives you way too much. Yeah. It just gives you way too much. And I always have a problem with any one unit that gives this much power, right? So it's like, I don't think that power level of demons right now is problematic, but nerf Impatient Doomsayer, and if you want to add some stats to something else,
Yeah, because they're clearly
that's
taking
fine.
this card that's just so obviously overpowered and making it the same as whatever that Quillbore is that gets the Divine Shield, as the same as Deflecto. Like they're making it the centerpiece of this tribe, right? And you get it on turn on tier 3, much like a Deflecto.
Real problem with Impatient Doomsayer is it speeds up the econ of demons significantly
Mm-hmm.
when demons should be about, and they've historically been, should be about, it's like they suffer in econ and leveling and all that stuff in exchange for a ton of stats in the mid game, right? But now you still get it, and Impatient Doomsayer is just like, here, have these triples. Have even more scaling so that you have the freedom to level, which is something that demons didn't have before. And now it's like cool because they have tier 5, tier 6 units that they really want, right? This Urzul, sometimes a Fellbat, sometimes not. But yeah, it's too much right now. So nerf that, throw whatever sort of like bounce buffs or changes you need to some other units. But this Doomsayer, it's too good. And sometimes I see demon players just run away with the lobby because very early on they'll have like an Icky Imp and an Imprisoner, and they were lucky enough, like on their first roll on tier 3, they got like double Impatient Doomsayer, and it's kind of just GG because it's way too much econ at that point, and it's too good, right? Like they're just able to put out the stuff and then level and then put out more stuff and then triple and then just keep going with that. Change it, Blizzard. Too good. Way too good.
All right. Next, we have mechs. Mechs got rid of the stuff you always expected to not be in mechs anymore. Micro Machine is gone. What else is gone? Iron Sensei is gone. That one is not vital to any build, but was a thing that mech builds did. And Junkbot is gone. Security Rover is gone. Sneeds is gone.
Yep.
So nothing too much that mech players will miss. But what's coming in is tier 1 Pup-Bot. 1 mana, 2/1 Divine Shield. The dog mech.
It's Cora's
Then
dog.
huh?
She confirmed it. Like they based it on Cora's pup.
Aw.
Yeah.
It is okay. So next is tier 4. You get your next mech. It is Mechanotank, 6/3 Avenge 2, pretty low number. Deals 6 damage to the highest health enemy minion. So it's interestingly got very low health itself, but has a very powerful Avenge ability. Next is Greasebot, which is tier 4, 3/6. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give it +2/+1 permanently. So here's a repetitive way to buff your Divine Shield minions, which is the things you want to buff anyway. Tier 4. Tier 5, Holy Mackerel is back. Only it's now Holy Mechero. Get it, mech? It's 8/4. After another friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain Divine Shield. We know how this one goes. And finally, on tier 6, you get Omega Buster. 6/6 mech, Death Rattle, summons 6 1/1 microbots. For each that doesn't fit, give your mechs +1/+1. So it could potentially buff your mechs a lot while refreshing Divine Shield.
Yep. Okay. Mechs won pretty big during this patch. They didn't change their playstyle much, but the stuff that they lost pales in comparison to the stuff that they gained. Pup-Bot is nice. It's just like another Divine Shield unit for them to have. Mechanotank or Mechanotank, this is a decent tempo unit. I've taken it a couple of times. It's not going to be part of anyone's endgame, really, but this thing has stabilized and really dished out some stupid damage in the mid game for like 2 turns or so. The 2 turns that I've kept it. If you're a little bit weak, and if you're playing mechs, which tend to have like replicating menace tokens and all of these like other little tokens that come out. This thing will just like more than double your damage sometimes. It's stupid. The real MVPs are the next 3 units. I can't really just give it to one. The one that is consistently good and has really improved the mech mid game, which previously was like, I need Deflecto, and then after that, it's like, please, I need Leapers. Because Leapers are the only things that really buff your stuff, and you're like, do I find Leapers? Do I not find Leapers? And then you stayed on tier 4 a lot. Greasebot has provided that really smooth mid-game scaling that mechs have wanted for a long time. Essentially guaranteeing all your Divine Shield minions +2/+1 at least once, every single turn. That's so good, right? It's like that smooth, Light Fang-esque kind of buff that you just want every single turn. This is a mech itself. You can buff it. You can give it Divine Shield if you wanted to. Greasebot is such a good stabilizing unit for mechs in which before, even if you just stayed on tier 4 and you rolled, you guys know how just sort of hit or miss it was, how dangerous it was. Greasebot smooths that out significantly. Holy Mech-Roll is a game changer. And we know it, well, if you played during the Holy Mackerel days, you understand how good this effect is. Holy Mackerel is definitely more balanced than Holy Mackerel was because you can't give this thing poison immediately. You can give it Divine Shield and you can taunt it, and you can do that annoying thing where Deflecto goes in to refresh his shield, and then you just follow it up with like 3 other Divine Shield units to keep on refreshing this shield. But it's a good addition. It makes mechs want to tier up more often than before, in which you literally just stayed on tier 4 because it was nothing on tier 5 or tier 6 for you. And then Omega Buster actually introduces somewhat a new playstyle for mechs. You can think of this as almost like a mech Goldrun in a way. So what you could do is you could just put the Buster first, have it proc once, and then just get all the buffs immediately. What you can do is you can put it at the end as just a refresh. I've seen some people do like double pair it, and if they were lucky enough to get like a golden Omega Buster, you just play it like a Goldrun. So they can play it purely as a Goldrun. They can play it as a more techie unit. If you combo it with Baron, it gets real big, real fast. So mechs are good, but the end game Omega Buster comp, that's going to be a little bit more rare. More commonly, what you'll see is just the old mech compositions that you're used to, which is double Deflecto and refreshes, further buffed and further backed up by Greasebots, and sprinkled in some Holy Mech-Rolls for more of these refreshes, tech Divine Shield units. It's quite strong. Mechs can win the lobby nowadays with all of this stuff together. So I like what they added, but most importantly, I like the fact that they're incentivizing mech comps to tier up. Whereas before, you were pretty much throwing if you went above tier 4 as mechs. And that's just kind of boring. You rolled on tier 4 and you're just like, oh, please, I want all of this stuff. And it was just a matter of, do I play pure mechs? Do I play Arm of the Empire mechs? And that was basically it. Like, so giving mechs these units that you really want to reach for, that's BGs, right? Like, you want to make people make choices, take risks, if there is a risk, to tiering up and getting these better units. And I think people are just having more fun with mechs right now, so I'm very happy with it.
All right. Next up, we have Murlocs. Murloc Tidecaller is gone. Is that really the only Murloc that's gone?
No.
Toxfin is gone. All right. Toxfin is gone. That's the big one. No, I didn't even think of Toxfin as a Murloc. Like, it's a Murloc, right? But I didn't think of it as, because the body's completely worthless. Right. But yes, Toxfin is gone, and the Murloc Tidecaller, which was one of their 1-drops, the plus attack, scaling, 1-drop is gone. But otherwise, they kept everything. Which means that we are adding more Murlocs into the pool, which is good because there really kind of wasn't enough Murlocs in the pool. But okay, so Murlocs now don't have Divine Shield. Murlocs now don't have Poisonous. What do Murlocs get? Tier 2 adds Salt Scale Honcho, 3/2. After you play a Murloc, give 2 other friendly Murlocs plus 1 health. All right. We have a little bit of Party Elemental going here. Tier 3 gets Swolfen. Battlecry. Gain +2/+1 for each other friendly Murloc. Alright, we get a little bit of a Tier 3 tempo play. That's not much else. Next, we have Tier 5. So the Murlocs are extending upwards. Tier 5, S.I. Siphon. 2/6. Avenge 3. Give a friendly Murloc poisonous permanently. So rather than having Toxfin, you now have to work for it, and it's random, but that doesn't really matter that much. But you do have to keep it around for a long time to work for it. And finally, you have Seafood Slinger, which is Tier 6, 5/5, not a Murloc. It's a dude cutting a fish, for those who are wondering what this is. And Battlecry, make a Murloc golden. I don't know what that does. Like, I honestly read it. I haven't seen anyone use it that I can tell, because it like does it and it probably gets sold, and I don't know what the hell happened. But what is the purpose of this besides Sephin? Is it just for Sephin?
No, I mean, Seafood Slinger, okay. There's a couple of ways to use Slinger. Number 1, you can just use it to try to get an Amalgadon. Number 2, you can use it to make an Amalgadon golden, which is pretty good. Number 3, you can also...
Oh, wait, hold on. It makes a Murloc golden in your hand?
In the shop.
Oh, in the shop! I see. Okay. See, that wasn't clear from reading this.
Like, it can make it gold in the shop.
I see. Okay. So it changes the Murloc that is in the shop golden to make it golden. Got it. Okay, makes more sense. Okay.
Right. Okay. So now you can figure out the uses, right? It's it's useful. And it's also just useful for if you're not Murloc and you get like really bad 6-drop discovers, you can take Slinger, make a Murloc in the shop golden. Yeah, you got to spend a little bit more gold, but you get a reroll, right? You get a reroll of a 6-drop.
Yep.
So there's ways to use it even if you're not a Murloc. But anyways, let's talk about Murlocs. Oh, it's not great.
It don't look great.
Yeah, I will say, right now, Flurgle is okay. Flurgle has the same win rate for top 1% players as Jandis. Pog. It has a slightly better win rate than Omu. What the heck is going on? So here's the thing.
Well, they buffed him, remember? Like, pretty recently.
Yeah, they buffed him. Well, they buffed him, but I don't know if you know this. Mm-hmm. They buffed him, but before the patch, after the buff, but before this new patch came out, he was bad.
He was still bad? Okay.
He was very bad.
I mean, that buff looked pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. But now he is decent. So, what kind of change with Murlocs? Losing Toxfin is really bad. Like, it's harder to get poisoned. Yeah, there's S.I. Sephin, haha. But the Avenge 3 is pretty annoying because stuff has to die. The entire point of Murlocs is that nothing dies.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is very, very different from like Beasts and Mechs, where things die and they generate tokens.
Oh, they die fast. They die fast, and you can have like Avenge 4 on Mechs and Beasts, and you're just like, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
And then you saw demons, like shooty demons, and the new demon, like, you know, 1-drops and whatever. Demons die too. They have small demons that die. Murlocs don't. They have none of them.
I will say, I played Flurgle recently. I had Sephin. I actually came in first because one of the things that's important about this meta is big poisons work. Like, big poisons are good, especially with stuff like Cthulhu Dragons running around, in which they have like medium attack, but very, very high health. Big elementals are back in. We'll talk about those when we reach there. But poisons plus, you know, selflesses, divine shields are pretty good. Like, they've always been good. They're still good. One of the problems is it's just harder now. They got decent mid-game additions in like the Honcho and the Swolefin. Swolefin can actually get pretty big. It like if you look at it, it's pretty swole and you get a decent amount of stats. But the problem is there's so much good mid-game stuff for other tribes. You know, you just get outclassed by mid-game beasts, mid-game demons. They're just like really, really good. So the consistency is not like it's better, but it's all relative, right? It's an arms race. So those other tribes are better, and it really hurts the late mid game when you're trying to like put poison on everything. You just can't. You just have to rely on the stupid
SI7 is I looked at it and I was like, oh god,
yeah,
this is not. It's at least smart, right? Like it won't try to give poison to like existing poisonous Murlocs.
Yeah, like
it'll find one that doesn't have poison yet and give that to that rather than potentially
it'll find that, and also it can poison itself. So
okay, that's fair.
It'll give poison to itself, which is nice. Right?
Yeah, okay. Nice. Okay, so it's at least smart about it.
Yeah, it's smart about it. So that's at least fine. But yes, it is tough these days for Murlocs because they lost probably like their best unit, right? Like they're not best in some ways, like in other ways, no. But it's tough to get poison, and you really need poison now. Like the reason to play Murlocs is because they have poison. That's the real reason, and they just made that a lot tougher. So you can make it work. Flurgle makes it a lot more consistent. I have had decent results playing Flurgle, which I'm very happy about. You guys know I love that dumb fish. But otherwise, if you're trying to play if you're trying to play Murlocs and you're not Flurgle, it's tough because Murlocs still have that same issue in which you're rolling. Like, you kind of need the brand, and if you don't have the brand, you're ultra reliant on your rolls. Really tough, especially with everyone scaling so fast from the mid game onwards. You just like got to keep up. The Flurgle game I had, I actually didn't have a brand, but because it's Flurgle, I just sort of made up for the fact that I was able to get all of these buffs. And then, of course, you strategically pick up these selfless heroes, and I was also like kind of lucky enough that the other person at the end was going elementals, so I was like, okay, I just win this, right? Because they were going for like bigger elementals. So yeah, Murlocs definitely did not gain. You can still win the game with them sometimes, but they are. If you had to pick, it's like, did they win or did they lose the patch? They definitely lost the patch. Like they are a loser. Sorry, they are a loser.
All right, that is Murlocs. Next up, we have dragons. So the entire dragon early and mid game are gone. Dragon Spawn Lieutenant is gone. Steward of Time is gone. Wax Rider Toggle Waggle is gone. What else is gone? Hangry Dragon is gone. Herald of Flame is gone. Like just all the dragons that you didn't want and didn't care about are gone.
Yep.
Bronze is still in the game. That is the one dragon anyone really cared about, and the dragon that buffs is still in the game. Those are the only two anyone ever really played anyway, and so they are still here, but everything else is gone. And
Razorgore is still here. Yeah.
Huh?
Razorgore and Caligos and everything.
Oh yeah. Like the ones people care about are still here. Yeah. Razorgore and Caligos, yeah. So replacing all the other dragons, including the entire dragon early and mid game, is Tier 1, Evolving Chroma Wing. 1/3 dragon. After you upgrade your Tavern tier, double this minion's attack. Next is Whelp Smuggler, Tier 2. After a friendly dragon gains attack, give it +2 health. So combos pretty nicely with the other Tier 2 dragon that remain. Terracosa is a Tier 3 dragon, 4/4. This permanently keeps enchantments from combat. This is replacing Hangry Dragon. It doesn't upgrade itself, but it'll keep anything you do to it in combat. Next is Tier 4. There are 2 Tier 4 dragons that we are adding. One is Prized Promo Drake, which is a 5/5. Start of combat, give adjacent minions +1/+1 for each friendly dragon. And the one after that is Prestor's Pyro Spawn, again tier 4, 3/5 dragon. Whenever another friendly dragon attacks, deal 3 damage to its target.
Okay. Dragons were also buffed in an interesting way. Let's just get right to it, or I'll preview a little bit and say Terracosa is very strong. Keeping enchantments from battle. There's many unique ways to do this. For example, if you are Alakir, you put Terracosa first, and it permanently keeps the Wind Fury Divine Shield taunt. That is one way to use it, right? And then, of course, Terracosa also keeps the start of combat buffs from Prize Proto Drake. That is one combo. And if you have like Spawn, if you have, I mean, we all like, obviously, if you have a Nadina, like it keeps the Divine Shield. But if you're lucky enough to have a Selfless Hero proc on it, it also keeps that Divine Shield permanently. So interesting. All right, let's talk about the real dragon unit, Whelp Smuggler. Whelp Smuggler is basically just like what dragons are nowadays. And it was called out as problematic from the very beginning, and they fixed it. And by it, I mean they somehow thought the problem was Razor Gore, so they fixed, quote-unquote, Razor Gore. But Whelp Smuggler is still around. Let's talk about Whelp Smuggler for a second. Whelp Smuggler says when after a friendly dragon gains attack, give it +2 health, and the golden version gives it +4 health. It was immediately seen as problematic because the first issue people saw was with Razor Gore. Whenever Razor Gore got its stats, it did it with +1/+1 increments, right? So Razor Gore would gain an obscene amount of health along with its normal stats with the help of Whelp Smuggler. So you saw, like, I easily got a 50 attack, like 300+ health Razor Gore. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good to have like multiple 50, 300 units plus like some other really high health units on the board. And they, quote, fixed it by fixing Razor Gore. And that was never really the issue. The issue was always Whelp Smuggler. Let's talk about Cthulhu, because this is why Cthulhu is the #1 hero in the meta right now. Think about Cthulhu's hero power, in which it just like shoots all these buffs across the board. Think about Whelp Smuggler. And that's the problem. So the strategy for Dragon Cthulhu is get to tier 2, stay on tier 2, collect the Chroma Wings, collect all the smugglers, collect these stupid little dragons, right? Like tier 2, tier 1 dragons, collect all the Whelp Smugglers, and spam Cthulhu's hero power. And then you can choose to tier up to get that Calagos if you want, like, but probably not, to get that Nadina, which will escalate you in power level, or you can just stay low. And, you know, if people aren't going poisons, it's way too much stats for people to handle. So I'm going to read this off. This is HS Replay. Okay, this is for top 1%. If you click on the hero, they will give you, okay, what is their winningest comp and hero affinity? It's dragons by far. What does a typical final board for a Cthulhu dragon look like? I will read it off to you. They start off with a single Nadina that's slightly buffed. It's followed up by a Glyph Guardian that is 22,279, a Chroma Wing that is 171,448, a Razor Gore that is 32,278, a Whelp Smuggler that is 2832. God, it's so small, right? A Calagos that's 17,114, and a Token Twilight Emissary that's only 17,150. That is the typical board that a Cthulhu ends on when they go dragons. That means at the end of the game, in which, by the way, if they go dragons, they are winning 50% of the time. First place. They are getting first place 50% of the time if they end up as dragons. Now, it is self-selecting, of course, right? Like some Cthulhu's never get the dragons, they're forced to go in different directions. But if they are lucky enough / smart enough, as in they have 5 brain cells, to go dragons as Cthulhu, they freaking win the lobby 50% of the time. So ridiculous. For a hero that is as safe and as consistent as Cthulhu, for them to win 50%, get first place 50% of the time, doing anything, is so dumb. It is ridiculously dumb. Oh, and they're getting second place like 20% of the time as well. Like okay, what is the chance combined that they don't get top 4? It's about 11-12%. If they go dragons as Cthulhu, they top 4 about 88% of the time, and to me that even seems freaking low. This is the state that we're in. Whelp Smuggler has enabled an obscene amount of stats. You can't beat them in the mid game. We talked about how hard it is in the mid game and even the end game to get poisons. And the person that goes Murlocs, if there is even Murlocs in the lobby, first of all, that there's a chance that there's dragons in, Murlocs out. That Murloc player has to survive the gauntlet, right? Like they gotta survive all these other mid-game comps, and also including the Cthulhu dragons. That's beating them up because they can't really keep up in this escalated war in the mid-game. So it's hard to get poison now, and if it's hard to get poison and it's hard to stay alive for you to get that poison, man, what a meta for Cthulhu dragons. It's easy to see why it is so freaking good. You click the button for 2 mana, you get way more stats than anyone should be able to get. Like we're talking, it's almost like a free golden brand, free like whatever mega scaling unit you want to think about. That much stats with just stupid 2 drops. And yeah, you could toss in the Nadina at the end. You don't even need it. What I've seen people do as well is pick up a Prester's Pyro Spawn. And what that helps do is up against these mech comps that are trying to kind of like, not cheese you, but kind of cheese you. Because let's face it, I don't want to talk about cheese when Cthulhu Dragon is the ultimate cheese here. They want to cheese you with Divine Shields. Prester's Pyro Spawn takes care of that, right? Whenever any dragon attacks, it pings it first for at least 3 damage, so it gets rid of the shield, and then you attack in. It's kind of perfect. Like, you could just pick that up for a final fight if you are facing mechs as well, and you're just like, I don't give a damn about your Divine Shields, because I always ping it off with my supersized dragons. And, like, what, your Deflecto is 40 attack? Maybe even 50 attack? That's like a 1/6 of the health of one of my mid-sized units. Like, it doesn't even matter. My biggest unit is going to be like 500 health. I don't give a damn about that. It's broken. Okay. So at this point...
So like, Cthulhu aside, how are dragons?
Okay, so Cthulhu aside, dragons are good. Like, they're Terracosa allows interesting playstyles, right? Like, I think the dragons overall have increased in strength in the mid game because they really didn't have a mid game previously. Mm-hmm. So saying that they increased in power in the mid game is sort of like, well, they had none before. But yeah, they are stronger in the mid game now. They are not as reliant on Kalagos, which is previously like, I gotta work my way up to Kalagos, otherwise I have 0 scaling. Now they have some ways of scaling, right? There's also ways to use Whelp Smuggler that is not purely like cheese way. You can just use it quote normally and do that. Evolve Chroma Wing is a nice addition, like the so it's fine. One of the problems is that Kalagos has not aged as well as other scaling units. Like, you get it at the end and you're just like, I'm like looking at it, I'm poking at it. It's like, come on, do more. It's like, do more. Now, double Kalagos is still very good, and you'll see some players still pop off with it super hard, like Shutterwalk does. But it's like, remember when you had the super high roll from like the OG Omu when it first came out, and you're just like, well, tier 6 elementals suck, but you'll see the Omu with like double little rag super early, and then they explode with elementals. Like, that doesn't mean rag is good. Rag has never been good. It's still not really good. It's just like they did very well with it, right? So yeah, sure, you'll see like the Shutterwalks go insane with Kalagoses every once in a while. It doesn't really mean Kalagos is good. It just means Shutterwalk is very good, and they hit the jackpot off of it. So mid game dragons have gotten a little bit better. Kalagos, oh man, just that scaling is It's not what it used to be, right? So overall, dragons I think improved a little bit because the mid game is very important. Like the mid game in Battlegrounds is very very important. So you being able to get to that end game is nice, but you really need that double Kalangos at the end. And these days, if you only have double Kalangos without the Nadina or without like you getting it super early somehow, it's nothing. It's really nothing. You're gonna die. I mean, even with Nadina, you might die to frogs anyways. But if you only have double Kalangos early, you're 100% dead to frogs. Like you 110% dead to frogs. Those froggies will eat up your giant legendary dragons that have like survived for eons and like look down on puny mortals. How do they die? To frogs. It's like the Deathwing dies to 12 squirrels kind of thing. Yeah, your Kalagos and all of your stuff dies to like all of these frogs like jumping on top of each other.
All right. So dragons not so good except with Cthulhu. Next, we're going to talk about pirates.
Oh, pirates.
Oh, pirates. What do we want to say about pirates? Bloodsail Cannoneer is gone. South Sea Captain is gone. Anything else gone? Seabreaker Goliath is gone. That guy never did much. And the Tide Raiser is gone. So no more ship. And let's see what they replace him with.
Oh god, of course, we're talking about pirates right when Slissa raids us, so like I feel, oh god, this is gonna be bad.
Alright. So pirates, the new pirates that are here. So I'm gonna preview this. There are a total of 5 pirates being added. So more than any other class, there is going to be more pirates now than you've seen before in the pool. First, Tier 2, Defiant Shipwright. It's a 3/4. After you upgrade your tavern tier, add a random pirate to Bob's Tavern. Okay, a little in-pirate synergy here for a otherwise normal statted minion. Next up, Briny Bootlegger, Tier 3, 4/4. At the end of your turn, if you have another pirate, add a gold coin to your hand. Okay, a little bit of resource generation at the cost of some stats. Next up, another Tier 4, 5/3. After a card is added to your hand, give another random pirate +1/+1. Coins are cards. So you get a little bit of pirate buffing here as well on Tier 4. Tier 5, Tony Two Tusk, 4/6. Avenge 5. 5 things have to die for this to trigger. Make another friendly pirate golden permanently.
Hope it hits your hogger.
Finally, you have Nosy Looter at Tier 6. Kind of not like to replace the ship, but instead of the ship. And it is every 2 turns, add a random golden minion to your hand. And a 7/6.
It's a 7/6. Okay. Let's talk about pirates overall. First of all, Nosy Looter, man, probably just one of the most worthless, like useless 6-drops they've ever printed. You can tell me if something was more useless than Nosy Looter, but I see like no purpose in Nosy Looter. Something like Zap you don't want a lot of times, but in some matchups it's the key to you winning, right? Like Zap just wins you some matchups, like for Beast right now. The thing I'm disappointed in with Pirates is that Blizzard didn't address a lot of the issues that Pirates had before, which was pure Pirates was always so weak. Probably the weakest pure class. Now, I know some of you guys like probably watch Slissa's videos, or let's say like Dog's videos, and like see them do APM Pirates, and it's like, Merps, how can you say Golden Selfless plus a board full of like 300 minions is weak? Yeah, well, it's getting there. That's the problem. And part of the issue is Pirates have always relied so heavily to a detriment on Hogger, and they still do. Peggy, the new Tier 4 unit, is nice, but it doesn't solve this problem, where what Peggy solves is smoother scaling. So before you had the salty looters, and those got buffed up big, and you had to rely on the 4/3 to buff other things. Peggy makes this infinite pirate scaling a lot smoother, as in Peggy will automatically buff other Peggies. It'll buff your Hoggers. It'll buff whatever other pirates you have on the board, right? It'll buff that Eliza if you have it. So everything is a lot smoother now. But you guys will know, if you're playing pure pirates, the first Hogger is helpful, but it doesn't do much. It's the second Hogger that really supercharges it. And then once you get like a gold Hogger and then the fourth Hogger, like the fourth Hogger is like, okay, I have just added infinite amount of stats, right? Like I actually go infinite with 4 Hoggers, 2 Hoggers or golden Hogger. It's nice, but it's, you know, you don't go like true infinite in a way, enough for you to guarantee you the golden selfless, to guarantee you all of that stuff. And plus you're still constrained by the your APM and whatever. And think about that. It's like the first Hogger doesn't do much for you. It's the second one that does it. So it's the second 5-drop that gets you that giant power spike. Like, what are you doing in between? We just talked about beasts, right? Leapfrogger plus like Rat Pack plus like Bird Buddy, all these tier 3 units. You just get like one of those each, and then, you know, mix in some other units. That's great. That's like that'll like tide you over. But with pirates, like this mid game, man, that's rough. You got no divine shields, right? You got no divine shields. You just got pure stats. You're not building your stats up to the same degree as everyone else. So you just need Hogger. I was really hoping Blizzard would address this reliance on Hogger, but instead they leaned into it more. You need Hogger more than ever now if you want to play pure pirates. And yeah, there's interesting stuff you can do with, like, let's say Millhouse, right? Millhouse tilts it because of the unique way that he buys things and sells things. And I saw this interesting game recently where they combine like Peggy with also elementals, like the recycling wraith. That was, I think, interesting. But generally, pirates have always been strong as an accessory, as in Hogger is the accessory to other comps, or they're powerful through scam comp. But that's really the power of Baron plus Khadgar, not through pirates as a class. It's like, what's the MVP of that comp, or what's the thing that makes it tick? It's Baron Khadgar, right?
It's not a pirate comp. It's a comp that has pirates.
So that's the thing that I'm disappointed in the most. I was hoping that they would smooth it out by addressing Hogger. And if you want to think about pirates, pure pirates.
Khadgar.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know you're not happy about Khadgar. I'm not happy about Khadgar either. But
who's happy about Khadgar? That was one of the biggest misses. That's just like they just decided to quadruple down on a problematic thing that's always been problematic.
Yeah. So, if anything, if you want to play pure pirates, you need Hogger more than ever now and earlier. Not just because like, oh, Hogger is more powerful now. It's because of the way that the game is structured. You need the Hoggers a little bit earlier to be more impactful for you to keep up. Because people are using that 15 damage shield. People are getting these really ridiculously powerful econ in the mid game, or just power in the mid game. Power equaling like these mid game beasts, right? Econ, the impatient doomsayer, feeding these demon comps way too much stats and money that they're supposed to get. And you, as a pure pirate player, you have to get double Hogger super fast. And like, how are you doing that, right? You can get lucky and do it. You can skillfully get it through like econ and play. It's just become harder for pure pirate players. And once again, don't give me the example of like, oh, someone made tier 6 elementals work. That means Little Rag is great and elementals are fine, right? No, it doesn't. Like, there's still a problem with like tier 6 elementals. You know, sometimes you can make it work and make it pop off ultra hard. But man, look at like what beasts are able to do with a tier 2 leapfrogger versus what pure pirates have to do with Hogger, right? So that's kind of disappointing. Is it fun? I think a lot of people are going to have fun playing pirates. You're not going to have fun dying as pirates if you want to go pure pirates. And the most effective way to play pure pirates, just as has always been, don't start off as pirates. What you want to do is, like, once you get the first Hogger that could potentially be a triple, there have been very few times where I've seen streamers, and from personal experience, I've played a lot. You just don't go pure pirates from the beginning because you will die. You don't have the space necessary in order to find pirates. I have done an infinite pirate game in this meta. I started off as beasts, like the ultimate secure mid-game comp, and then I got a Hogger because I missed on my like tier 5 beast discover, and then I went up to 5, and I think I just got like double Hogger immediately. I was like, all right, well, the game wants me to go pirates. I have a golden Hogger now, I can do it. And then I use that with like Peggies and all of the stuff that I pick up in order to craft a winning composition. But that would be my advice. If you want to go pirates, let the game come to you. Do not get baited into early pirates. You will almost never get baited.
Yeah, I was about to say, no, but even with
pirates,
how are you going to get baited with early pirates? What looks tempting in pirates on the early side?
Some people like pirates, okay?
Okay, so they're not getting baited. They're just stubbornly trying to go pirates despite nothing looking good.
I mean, they could look at like double Salty Looter and be like, ooh, maybe.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Salty Looter is still in there, but even Salty Looter now, it got power creep pretty hard, I think. But okay, so these new early and mid range pirates, they're not cutting it. They don't look like they're cutting it, and they're not cutting it. For the pirates. So Tony Two Tusk, how often does that work out?
Never. do not. Okay, I have talked about these ways. Never do Tony.
Okay. Tony Two Tusk is on the Merp's shit list. Okay.
It does not work. If you're putting Tony in, I'm like, where have you failed? Like, I'm talking about the fringe cases in which pirates work, and Tony doesn't even work in those cases. That is asking way too many units to die, and I understand, right? It's like, in order to make something golden, because you have the chance of making an
scam comp,
you have a chance of making Hogger golden, and yeah, you have Scallywags, but like, no, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So. Because the engines that drive your kind of composition, if you didn't have it, then you don't have it. Like, you're probably not going to get it by luck. I'm sure some people might be like, oh, I had this game work, Tony worked.
So what Chad is saying is you make sure there's just Tony and one other pirate, so Tony can't miss. And then you make that pirate, also known as Hogger, golden.
You could. Once again, these fringe cases were like you had a Hogger, and you picked the Hogger, and then you had the Tony, and then you had other. Because
your basic thing is like you need two Hoggers, right? You need two Hoggers to go pirates, or else kind of stay away from pirates. What if you have a Hogger and a Tony? How often can you make that Hogger into gold on that next turn?
I mean, you can just get like if you had Scallywags, if you had Acolytes of Cthuns, if you had like. These small things that you had anyways. Like if you went to tier 5 and then you saw a Hogger and a Tony in the same shop, you're like, there you go. So yes, there are those times, right? But no, Tony doesn't. If it's thrown at you, it's like sure, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't work in an organic fashion, really. And like when we're talking about. Let's say, I always go back to Beast, and I'm sorry for beating on this drum, but Beasts are like so meta.
But Beasts are going to get nerfed.
Who knows, man?
Oh, I mean, there's no way Blizzard wants this to happen. Beasts are going to get nerfed one way or the other.
Idea. Once again, I keep talking about Beast, but it's about the progression, the naturalness of the progression, the smoothness of the power ramp. Beasts are there, right? Pirates have always suffered from this, continue to suffer from it, and they have gotten good units. Like, I think Peggy is so good for Infinite Pirates. Like, Peggy is so good. The problem is getting to that point. So Peggy doesn't help you get there. It just smooths out the stat distribution once you are there, and then Peggy is a house once you're there. But man, the reliance on Hogger is rough. And they haven't changed it. I guess they won't change it, like we talked about.
Like they just quadrupled down on it.
They really have went all in on saying we like Hogger. Like Peggy and these new units it's kind of like them expressing their faith in Hogger. So if you want to play pure pirates, once again, don't do it from the start.
They're going to have to change pirates again at some point pretty soon.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
Like, it's just not a buff and nerf situation here. All right, let's move on to elementals. Elementals. Okay, you tell me, but outside of Gar, which is gone, did any other elementals leave?
Arcane Assistant.
Arcane Assistant left. Yes. Okay. So the 3-1 got replaced. Got it. Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
3-3.
Yeah. The three. I mean, the tier 3-1.
Yeah.
Okay. So Arcane Assistant got removed. Okay, that makes more sense because I'm like, God, they added a lot of elementals and they only took 1 away. Okay. So they took 2 away. They added 4. You're gonna see more elementals in your shops now. The ones they added are the tier 3-1 Smogger. 3-3, tier 3, Battlecry, give a friendly elemental stats equal to your tavern tier. So there's your buff and elemental one. A little basic. Next one is tier 4. Tier 4, 4-5, Avenge 2. Elementals in Bob's Tavern have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. So now you have a mini Nomi coming in on 4. Also on tier 4, Recycling Wraith, 5-4 elemental. After you play an elemental, your next refresh costs 0. And finally, tier 6, Master of Realities to replace Gar, 6-6 Taunt. After a friendly elemental gains stats, gain +1/+1.
Yep. All right. Elementals got some nice tools. The real standout, we can talk a little bit about kind of like how Smogger is nice. If you just think about it, Smogger is a lot of stats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Smogger replaced Arcane Assistant. Arcane Assistant gave buffs to your entire board. Smogger gives a buff on the thing that you want the most, which is probably going to be Cyclone Elemental, which
for almost the entire board, like almost the same amount of stats as the entire board.
Yeah, definitely. And you get to concentrate it on whatever you want. That's really nice. The standout addition to elementals, the thing that really elevated them to the next level, is Recycling Wraith. This thing is crazy good. Now, is it as good as the stuff that I've previously talked about, being Impatient Doomsayer and Leapfrogger? No, it's not that good, but Recycling Wraith is ridiculous for the strongest play style of elementals that there was before. That's obviously not tier 6 elementals. You guys know how much I've pooped on tier 6 elementals, because tier 6 elementals are bad. You spend too much gold to gain not enough stats.
But what about Master of Realities?
Master of Realities, it was / decent. It was like a little bit bugged. It got like a little bit too much stats. At the end of the day, though, Master of Realities, it's like, even if you buff it huge, which I know was fairly easy at some point, it's like a singular unit, right? It doesn't really change the way that elementals were. It's like you add a big unit to something, to a tribe that like got big units very easily, right? That's a lot less exciting than how do you get big sooner? How do you get big with less money? Like, that's the most important thing in BGs. So the two most powerful and most, I guess, econ-friendly elemental builds were Nomi and Major Domo, right? And with Major Domo, lots of times it wasn't just like pure Domo. It was like Domo fueled by other stuff. And you could use Domo on, like, let's say, a cleave, like the Hydra as well. Recycling Wraith is amazing at doing that, because it just, you're doing the same thing that you used to do, and every single turn you're just gaining what, like minimum 3 gold at least. That's really disgusting. And if you golden Recycling Wraith, your next 2 refreshes cost 0. So the amount of econ that you're gaining through these builds that just want you to be recycling elementals over and over and over again, whether that's Nomi or Major Domo, Recycling Wraith just supercharges it. So you were going to buy any elemental anyways, and Recycling Wraith just says, now you gain an obscene advantage doing this thing that you used to be able to do. And It's one thing. It's one of those things that has made Millhouse absolutely crazy in this patch. Now, Millhouse right now is about as good as Daryl and Galewing. That's like very, very good. So Millhouse is still very good with dragons, but its number 2 tribe is elementals for good reason. Now, whenever you buy an elemental with recycling wraith, you are effectively just gaining gold. You don't even need like 2 recycling wraiths. You can just have 1 recycling wraith. And if you're playing Major Domo, if you are playing Nomi, Millhouse is broken with just 1 recycling wraith. And even if you aren't playing those, you can put something like a recycling wraith on your board, and as Millhouse, if you buy a Elemental, you have just gained an obscene amount of gold. It's such a good econ unit. You can sprinkle this into some mix comps as well, but man, this is really supercharged the preferred elemental playstyle, which is Nomi's, or to a lesser extent, Major Domo.
All right. So that's elementals, and finally we have Quillbores. Quillbores, they replaced Thorncaller with another tier 3 minion. So Thorncaller used to give you a blood gem on Battle Cry and Death Rattle, and now you're replacing it with a 2/4 Quillbore that is Gem Splitter. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain a blood gem.
Fine. You're actually not going to be using this in Quillbore comps a lot of the times. You'll be using this in mech comps. And you can just look at it as either a replacement or an addition to a Greasebot, because it works in similar fashions, right? With both of these, it's like whenever you lose a Divine Shield, you're gaining some stats. So Gem Splitter, you're going to see as a temporary unit in mech comps much more often than you'll see it in any sort of Quillbore thing. Gem Splitter, I don't see it being bought a lot. I personally don't buy it a lot either, but it's fine. I've seen it stay in a composition for like 1 or 2 turns. You know, I think it's analogous to like the budding Green Thumb in that way. You know, they're the same tier. They do kind of similar things. Greasebot is typically better in the situations that you want to use it for. So that's why you won't see Gem Splitter very often.
So how does the rest of Quillbore stack up with all the new tribes?
Yeah, I think Quillbores are okay. One of the problems is if you look at pure Quillbores, man, they just don't scale fast enough these days. They don't make them like they used to, or these new tribes, like the new Cthulhu dragons. It's like in a different category, but the new beasts and the new mechs and the new demons, gosh, they just get out so fast and they finish well, right? Like demons probably finish the worst out of all of them in terms of finishing late game comps, but their mid game is so strong. Beasts are just strong throughout. Mechs, whether through Omega Buster, whether through Mecharol, and they can just get their Deflectos much bigger during the game through these Greasebots and Gem Splitters as well. So the problem is Quillbores, if you remember when they first came out, they dominated the mid game and they dominated the late game. Their mid game has gotten progressively weaker and weaker and weaker. And their end game now, because this arms race has been happening for a really long time, they nerfed not Tough Tusk, like the tier 6 unit that gives 1 blood gem per 4 gold. You could revert back now, and I don't think it would be like supremely overpowered. So the best use for Quillbores was actually through Menagerie, right? It's like if you got the God pure Quillbore build, that's cool and everything, but the best use of Quillbores was always through Menagerie. Flat Tusk. So it was Agam, Flat Tusk, and then you would just buff it in that way. Part of the problem with Menagerie generally, because Agam Flat Tusk is still quite good. Once again, it's getting there that's the issue. Because if Menagerie is weaker, and by weaker I mean You don't have Mithrax, that big giant stat stick to stabilize you in the mid game / late mid game. Light Fang is a giant kick W. My gosh, like +2/+2, no matter how early on, that doesn't do anything. So that's a giant kick W. Bran for like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna mess around, buy some like buffs with Bran, like waste your gold, waste your time with that. That it doesn't do enough. So like the setup to get to Agam Flat Tusk is hard. And even if you get it, you have a decent chance of dying to, I'll call it the true endgame compositions now, which is going to be Cthulhu Dragon, which is going to be Beast, literally any sort of beasts, because beasts are overpowered right now. Giant demons can still beat you. Giant mechs, whether through like just being bigger than they used to be, or like the new Goldrun, like the Omega Buster cheese, they can beat you like that. Menagerie is just a little bit too fair now. You can still win. It's just a little bit too fair in a meta that is trending more and more towards super busted, unfair, cheesy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. It's harder to get there in order to set it up, and the payoff is a little bit less. And if the payoff is not as big, why are you setting it up in the first place? You might as well just buy the Leapfrogger and try to go for that.
Yep. And keep in mind, there's still like a thumb on the scale in the entire meta right now from the damage cap that will hopefully be changed in a way to be less of a thumb in the scale. So for something like Quillboars that's supposed to be mid-game centric, like that was the original design. So I don't know that Blizzard is all that upset that it's not particularly successful in the late game, because it's supposed to be mid-game centric, and right now it's just, well, one, Beast, but even if you take Beast out of the equation, the dominating the mid-game isn't what it used to be. And that's something that can be fixed pretty easily, actually. And I feel like Blizzard will do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So, all right, look, we have spent a long time. Like, this is the biggest VG patch. We knew this was going to go on for long. So it's almost been 2 hours. Closing thoughts. I'm going to say a couple of things. I've said it before, but I want to make sure I leave you with this. The power creep right now is pretty crazy. You have a lot of heroes that are capable of power leveling. The 15 damage shield is something that the best players are utilizing very, very well. What are things that you want to do to learn and copy? Number one, I said this before, if you are finding yourself leveling to tier 2 on turn 2, the vast majority of times you are doing it wrong. You should be staying on tier 1 a decent amount of time. I can't give you an exact percentage because the heroes are all different, but you should be doing it a lot more than you used to do. This is with like all heroes as well, right? And collecting the tier 1 tokens, just trying to triple up easier to be able to pop off.
So what are you trying to triple into? Tier 4, tier 5?
Most of the time it's going to be tier 5, because tripling into tier 6s like immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty tough. I would say the only hero that can do that like really well is Shutterwalk, because they can get like 5 or like, 4 or 5 triples immediately on that pop-off turn, so they can go for like some 6s and then just get the biggest power spike that anyone can see. But it's really hard for other heroes, and I would say, frankly, inadvisable for other heroes to just be like, all right, I'm weak, and then I'm only going to get like 1 or 2 tier 6 units. That's a losing formula for this meta. So Shutterwalk is able to pull it off because Shutterwalk sometimes is able to get like 4 to 5 triples on that one turn, and then they get all those 6 drops, and it's fine because there's consistency there. With other heroes, tier 5 units are very strong. Whether they are the flawed Hogger that we talked about, Mama Bear is strong. You can pick up like a Croc. Baron is so good just because it's a beast meta, so you're always going to find a use for Baron in there. But yeah, you want to be tripling into tier 5s a decent amount of times. That's kind of, I'm going to say, that's kind of it. After 2 hours, that's sort of it. My experience, I've been playing BGs a good amount. It's been fun. I would say Blizzard, it's like, is this sort of a success or a failure on Blizzard's end with this patch? Success. It's a good success. There's no way you can expect perfection. There was some broken stuff. There continues to be some broken, or if not broken, very cheesy strats that are left in the game right now. I would say some people are rightfully so not so happy about Leapfrogger. Whelp Smuggler is problematic. And then there's stuff that is working as intended, but might be a little bit too strong, which is the impatient Doomsayer crowd, right? Like that group there. But it's a fun game. There's lots of strategies. I found that there are many games in which I come out of it, I reflect on it, I'm like, I made so many mistakes. Like, I didn't scout enough. I played this poorly. I made this bad decision here and there. And that's where I want to be at. I want to be good enough to be able to identify these mistakes and then to potentially learn from it. I'm very inspired watching a lot of streams and seeing how these players are making new strategies and also just these interesting forks in the road that I might have decided one way before, or they have identified this fork that I never even saw before. Like, that's the most important thing. I'm like, oh God, I didn't even consider that. So there's a ton to learn. If you're finding that you are a little bit overwhelmed, I am a little bit as well. But if you think that they made a lot of things too random, that's not the case. You see these streamers, I talk about this for Arena all the time. If you're just really annoyed and being like, oh gosh, like I keep on facing these people, they hit me for 30, there was nothing I could do, there was something you could have done. Sometimes there's nothing you could do, but there's a reason that the players who are on the top of the leaderboard now, like a week into the meta, are the same that it's always been. There's, you're probably doing something wrong if you're frustrated. I get frustrated too sometimes because of the way that the game is. But you got to set yourself up for the high roll. You have to be realistic about your chances. You have to take the leapfroggers. I can't stress this enough. Take the leapfroggers. If you are passing on leapfroggers, like I was watching Drez the other night, he's like, I'm going to be flexible. And he passes up leapfrogger and parrot. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Just admit that you want a high roll dragon. Okay? Just be honest with yourself. You want a high roll dragons, that's fine. But you got to take the frog and you got to take the parrot. But no, I think it's fun, and I've kind of quote complained about quite a few things in this meta, and I just want to make it clear that's understandable. There was no way with this giant overhaul.
We previewed this. We previewed this last week. We said this was going to be a total mess, most likely, with some chance of it being not super terrible. Well, we're in that some chance of it not being super terrible. So and this is like a success as far as
they did a great job considering, right? Considering all this stuff. And it's very fun. It's very, very fun. So if you haven't checked out BGs, definitely check it out. I would definitely suggest you guys, if you want to learn, like watch streams from leaderboard players, because that's the fastest way to learn. That was the best way for me to learn. I was away from the game for like more than 8 months or so, and I played a little bit, but by far the best way for me to learn was to watch streams of leaderboard players to really supercharge my own learning. I'm excited. This obviously shows that Blizzard is going all in and is really supporting BGs on like Arena. But this is a good direction. It's super duper fun. Yes, the power level is high, but there's kind of just one way to go for power levels. Lots of interesting decisions to be made, and I look forward to what they do. Like, we're definitely going to get kind of adjustments or nerfs or changes, if not sooner than what we've seen with Arena, which is like never.
Okay.
Because there's
anything is sooner than what we've seen with Arena.
Anything is sooner than never, I guess.
Yes, exactly. You're starting with an infinite zero here. All right. Well, that's our coverage here. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark. A shout out to our Patreons. We're gonna do the individual shout outs next week. But thank you guys so much for all of your support, including our new Patreons from joining us from last week. And I want to end on something that I talked about like in the last stream. I don't know about the last podcast. But I finally saw Shang-Chi on Saturday, and I have to say, you gotta go and watch it unless you totally hate all superhero movies. Like, if there's even a crack in your, like, superhero hate, and you like, I don't know, maybe Guardians, maybe, like, Cap 2, maybe the Avengers, whatever. If there's any MCU movie that you like, you should go and watch Shang-Chi. It is by far the best action in the entire that Marvel has ever done. And the story is extremely emotional in a way. Like, Marvel almost, like, you don't expect this, and this is a little bit of spoilers, but not really. But they cast essentially two comedians as their, like, leads, and then the story is not very funny. So if you're expecting Thor Ragnarok, you're not going to get it. But it was a surprising turn and all for the good. Tony Leung is freaking amazing as usual. And I put a tier list out as a tweet before watching, just to see where this falls. And I think I ended up giving it like a number 7 or number 8 out of all the movies. And there's like 25 Marvel movies so far. But definitely, especially if you're into the action part of an action movie, this is top notch stuff. So go check it out. It also has right now a 98% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So anybody who has thought that they may like it has actually liked it. 98% is freaking insane.
For audience score, that is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, it doesn't mean that it's the greatest movie ever, and it's not the greatest movie. It's not even the greatest Marvel movie ever, but it's a consistently fun movie to watch. And it's just hard for me to imagine somebody who thinks that they may or may not like this movie going in and walk out and being like, no, I actually didn't like it. Like, it doesn't quite confuse. I don't even know who those 2% people are. Like, that was surprising to me. That must have been like, I don't know who Awkwafina was. I walked in and I realized I hated her. And she's in there throughout the entire movie, which is possible.
People do find her annoying.
Yeah, like there's, I mean, I love Awkwafina, but I could totally understand if you absolutely hate it and she'll ruin the entire movie for you. But that aside, I don't see how anyone could walk in with a even remotely open mind and come out and being like, this was like below a 5 out of 10, you know, or even below a 6 out of 10.
That's crazy because, like, the audience score for Infinity War, which a lot of people like, right?
Yeah, that's really one of my top movies.
Right. So we're not talking about Endgame. We're talking about Infinity War, the actual, like, better movie.
Yeah, the Thanos movie.
That's only 91%.
Yeah,
91% for
look at Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, that was like universally loved, right? That's my number 1 Marvel movie, and I think that one's also like only like that one's below 95% too. So we're still in the early times, right? Like, most of the people who watch it are people who really think that they're going to like it because it's opening weekend. But that score is going to go down. But I think this is going to end up being one of the like most liked Marvel movies, especially among the what do you call them? The first movie, like the hero's journey of establishing a character.
Origin story.
Yeah, and like origin stories are typically, they don't do as well as later ones for whatever reason with the audience, even though they do better with critics normally, because they usually have a more cohesive story. But here, this is going to end up as one of the good ones. And, you know, as Asian Americans, I think at least I think Merps is watching it next weekend, but I obviously felt pretty connected to it. I was also born in China and grew up here, much like a lot of the characters in the movie. But even without that, it's like one of the top. So check it out. Felt like I should give it a plug here. All right. Yeah, and tune in next week when we'll hopefully they push the button and we'll have something in the arena side to talk about, or if not, we'll talk more BGs and delve into some more specific strategies besides beasts, which in many lobbies there are no beasts, and then you can't take beasts. You can't take leapfroggers when they're not in the game, dude.
Figure out a way. Win the lobby.
All right. Until next time, this is Oddwicta.
This is Merp. See you guys.